What's up, cooks? Welcome to the Card Kitchen. I am the Card Chef, and today I am back, baby. It's been a while. It's been like 2 full weeks. I was out sick for an entire week, super duper bad, and then I took an additional week off. I feel like the Pokemon Pocket content creation scene has kind of been slowing down a bit, at least for myself. All the decks that were basically able to be built and presented out to the community, I feel like have been done from me on my part, and even the decks that I did have the ability to make and wanted to make. A lot of people already made them, and I didn't really want to do like a rinse repeat from other people's content. And also, I didn't want to like rehash older decks that have like upgrades too much. And so I kind of just said, you know what, I'm going to take a week off, an additional week, get my mind right, wait for some updates. And now we've got them. We've gotten the updates about the rank play coming up at the end of March. And now we just got a reveal of a new set called Shinin' Revelry, and this set's pretty cool. It has a bunch of different shiny variants of Pokemon. As you can see, the first one we're going to look at is Charizard EX, a brand new Charizard EX, by the way. And this Charizard EX is in its shiny form, and it's beautiful. And for the first attack, first of all, it has 180 HP. Completely different variant from the one from Genetic Apex. Has different attacks. Weak to water, 3 energy retreat. Says take, for its first attack, 1 energy. Take 3 energy, fire energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. Very strong. If you mix this in with Moltres, it actually gets ramped up super duper quick. But its second attack for 5 energy, 3 fire, 2 colorless, steam artillery, only does 150 damage. Now, 150 damage is very strong, but if we're playing a Charizard, wouldn't we just want to play the one for the same amount of energy, even if it discards 2, do the one that does 200 damage? And there are quite a bit of Pokemon that are close within that 150 range that will get knockouts with the 140 or 130 they're doing anyways, or they will two-shot whatever this card is two-shotting anyways as well. Because there is a lot of Pokemon that have 150 HP or 140, and Giant Capes are played in a lot of decks. So is it actually super duper strong? I don't know. I think putting 3 energy on it, but again, you have to put 3 energy by attacking, which means then you take an attack, and then the next turn you have to manually attach one and hope that you already had one. You have 1 from the Stoke, 3 from the Stoke, so that's 4, and then you manually attach. So 2 turns to do 150 damage with its own 2 attacks. Whereas Moltres, you can just Moltres onto the other Charizard from Genetic Apex, get 200 damage once you're at 6, right? Because then you discard 2, then attach another one the next turn, so you still have 5, and then discard 2 again, and then just sweep the game. So again, very cool. Probably the coolest art. This is my favorite shiny Pokemon of all time. I love the Black Charizard, the red wings, super duper beautiful. But I do not think this is actually better than the current one that we actually have. And it doesn't really bring anything extra special in my opinion, but we'll see people test it. I'm sure I will as well. Next one, Lucario EX. So this one's pretty cool. The first Lucario EX we have. I didn't even know Lucario's shiny form was like gold or yellow, whatever you want to call it. Looks super duper cool. I actually love it. 150 HP for a stage 1. Beautiful. 3 fighting energy, Aura Sphere, 100 damage. This attack does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So a couple of things here. 1, the 30 damage, is it random? It doesn't say you choose, or it doesn't say do 30 damage to one of your opponents. It says, or choose one of your opponent's Pokemon to do 30 damage to. It just says does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Bench Pokemon. Now, again, I don't know if that means it's random or not. So we'll have to see. But I think it is random, but I could be wrong. But its actual attack is 100 damage for 3 energy, and then 30 to the bench, which means it's 130 for 3 energy. Very good. Like, very, very good. This also sets up a ton of Gustin opportunities with Cyrus, so very cool. And this already, I feel like, power creeps the hell out of Garchomp EX. Garchomp EX is also a fighting type Pokemon, but it's a stage 2, and for 3 energy, it does 100 damage. Or for 1 energy, it does 50 to whatever you want. But this is a stage 1 that does that. Now the difference is Garchomp can also play alongside Lucario, the baby Lucario, to get additional damage. So can this one, but it's a lot harder to do because then you have to dedicate one of your Riolu to Lucario EX and the other Lucario, the baby one, to your other Riolu. So being able to play this card with the other Lucario is going to be very hard to do, and I think any fighting deck that you're playing probably wants to do that. So I don't know if Lucario EX, at least in a meta sense, is going to be super relevant, because I still think the baby Lucario, for the majority of fighting decks, is going to be chosen to be played over this one. Because it's just going to increase the damage. And not only that, it's going to increase damage on Pokemon that, yes, have lower attack, but they're going to be able to attack quicker because they have lower energy requirement, things like 1 or 2 energy requirement, and will be able to get the same amount of damage that this Lucario would have been able to do by the time you have 3 damage on it anyways. So I don't know. Again, I think this one and the Charizard EX, the 2 shiny forms, are the best arts in the game right now. But I don't think they're going to be meta relevant, in my opinion. And then we got a new Pachirisu. 70 damage for a basic Pokemon. For its attack is 1 electric energy. It's called Plasma. Does 10 base damage. Take a electric energy from your energy zone and attach it to one of your benched electric Pokemon. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, especially since we're getting a new Pikachu EX that we'll look at right after this. And we already have a bunch of ways to manipulate or ramp energy with electric right now. Anyways, we got Volkner decks, and Volkner can do that from the discard pile. We have Lieutenant Surge that can move stuff around, or just the Dawn. We have a Magneton that can ramp onto itself. And so we have ways to already kind of manipulate energy. And what we're going to do is, again, like I said, we're going to look at the new Pikachu EX that we have. And before we do, I just want to say, one, we already getting a new Charizard EX, and now we're getting a new Pikachu EX, and so my theory is we're actually going to get a new Mewtwo EX, because obviously Pikachu and Charizard are 2 of the main Pokemon from Genetic Apex on the packs. They're the ones with the golden rares, or the crown rares, I should say. So I actually think, and the Mewtwo EX has not been revealed, I have not heard about it, but as a theory, I think we will get a Mewtwo EX. But anyways, until it's proven, I don't know. But this Pokemon says it's 120 HP, 1 energy retreat, 3 energy requirement, all electric. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. It does 150 damage. 150 damage for a basic Pokemon is very strong. So yes, I just said about the Charizard EX that 150 isn't that great, but it's not on a stage 2. It's not the greatest, especially since the other version of it does 200. But when it's a basic Pokemon that by turn 2, or by your second turn of attack, which is your turn 3, I guess, this guy's fully loaded. Either 1, you attach an energy, turn 1, turn 2, you attach another, or turn 3, and then turn 3, you attach it. Or you have a Pachirisu, you attach an energy to your Pachirisu, attack, put 1 on your Pikachu, have a Magnemite on your bench. The next turn, you evolve into Magneton, ramp energy onto Magneton, and then bring out your Pikachu, and then just Dawn it. Right? Like, you're already super duper set up. And then it discards all its energy, but then guess what? You've already knocked out their Pokemon. You might have knocked out the Pokemon that has all the energy on it. You retreat it, rinse, repeat. Or you played it in a Volkner deck, and you take all those energies, and you put all those Pokemon, those energies you discarded, back onto a Volkner Pokemon. I don't know. But let's get into the next card. So the next Pokemon we're going to look at is Wugtrio. Not Dugtrio, Wugtrio. Apparently, and I didn't even know this is a Dugtrio variant from another region. I don't know which one, but it's very clear. And we're also getting a Wiglet, which is the basic version of this that evolves into this. I won't get into the card. It has been revealed, but it's not very relevant to talk about. But this one, a stage 1 EX Pokemon, water, 140 HP for 3 water energy, has the pop out throughout. Weird. One of your Pokemon, opponent's Pokemon is chosen at random 3 times. For each time a Pokemon was chosen, do 50 damage to it. The exact same attack as Dragonite. This is Dragonite's attack, except it chooses 3 Pokemon instead of 4, which means its max damage output is 150 instead of 200. So you can do 50 to 3, 50 to 1, and 100 to 1, or 150 to 1. Will this be better than Dragonite? I don't know. I have no idea. You get into it quicker. It has less of an energy requirement, less of an evolution requirement, and it's a water type. We can play it with Irida. We can play it with Manaphy, and we can play it in Vaporeon. We can play it a ton of different ways. You can play it with Palkia and create a spread damage deck, because Palkia does 20 to the bench as well. So spread damage decks might actually become a thing because of this. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. The one thing about decks right now, unfortunately, as we can see, these 18 trainer, 16 trainer, or 6 max Pokemon per deck seem to be the way to be going right now. Okay? And it's very unfortunate and it kind of sucks. But it's going to be very hard to be playing evolution Pokemon right now, because you need to be able to play the least amount of Pokemon. So you can't really play this with Manaphy and Vaporeon. You know what I mean? And then also a Palkia. You have to probably play this with Palkia and Manaphy, and that's it. Or some type of variant. But the more Pokemon you play right now, it's going to be a lot harder to win against decks that are playing less Pokemon and a ton of trainers. So I don't know where to go with this card. I love it. I like it. I want to test it, and only time will tell. But with that being said, let's get into the next card. My thing's not working here. We're going to look at all the X Pokemon. There are a couple of other Pokemon in here. We'll look at this one very quickly. Tatsugiri, a basic water Pokemon with 70 HP. Ability, retreat, directive, your active Dondoza has no retreat cost. So there is a lore in the game where you're in the game and the anime. The Tatsugiri lives inside of the mouth of a Dondoza. In the video games, the VCG, when you're in a battle, it's always 2-on-2. You can actually put them both on the field at the same time, and I believe it just automatically, or there might be an attack you have to do, that it hops into Dondoza's mouth, and then they get a huge power boost on the field because of it. Obviously these Pokemon are going to be working together. I'm assuming Dondoza is a non-EX, or else it would have said Dondoza EX, in my opinion. And I believe Dondoza will probably have a huge retreat cost. But in order to actually make it good, because even just giving it a free retreat, if its attacks or abilities or whatever aren't that great, then it probably won't be used. So I'm assuming Dondoza will actually be pretty decent, and I hope that it is. There's the Wiglet. The Varoom, I believe, evolves into something else. Pincers, absolute garbage. I'll get through this one real quick. 3 energy requirement for 50 damage. Sucks. Flip a coin until you get heads. Or until you get tails. This attack does 40 more damage for each heads. If you fail on the first try, you have a 3 energy requirement to do 50 damage. Horrible. If you only get 1 heads, 3 energy requirement to do 90. Horrible. Even 120, or what would it be? Sorry, it would be 130 for 3, which is pretty decent. The odds of you getting it are astronomical. It's so dumb. I don't know how cards like this get past the creative team or whatever, but whatever. This one here, Sprigatito. I've never heard of this Pokemon before at all. Kind of looks like a baby version of Leafeon. I have no idea what it is. 60 HP. I assume this means it evolves into something. Cry for help. 1 leaf energy. Put a random leaf Pokemon, or grass Pokemon, should be saying. from your deck into your hand. So there's already a lot of like Pokemon that do this. I'm pretty sure Caterpie already does this, right? It puts a random grass Pokemon into your hand. So is this going to be better? It's going to be played alongside it. We also have Combi that can tutor cards out of the deck. It's also a grass type. Is there something there that we can do to make sure that no matter what Pokemon we start with as a basic, it's grass and that it automatically pulls something that we want? I think this will probably be played in decks as a one of, if played at all, to get something like your Leafeon. Because your Leafeon, you want to be able to make sure you always have it on your turn 2 so that you can evolve it right away to start ramping energy onto it. So that might be a way to play this, is just in a Leafeon deck, having this 2 Eevee, 2 Leafeon, and a Celebi, so that you're almost automatically going to always get a Leafeon by turn 2. So that could potentially be something that we see. It also depends what other grass type Pokemon we get, obviously. We'll look at the 2 trainers now. Iono, this card and cards like it, very similar style cards, have always traditionally been in Pokemon TCG, the paper version. It says each player shuffles the cards in their hand into their deck, then draws that same amount of cards. So basically, if you have 5, you would draw 4. Okay, because you get rid of Iono, you put the 4 back into your deck, then you would draw 4 new cards. Because it shuffles it, you can get some of the same ones, you can get all brand new ones, you can get all the same ones. This card, or cards like this, are usually a bit different. I don't actually know if this will be played 2 of in every deck. I don't think so. Because there are going to be times where you don't have a lot of cards in your hand. And when you don't have a lot of cards in your hand, this card sucks, right? This isn't like a new Professor's Research. This isn't replacing Professor's Research. In fact, the ones that from the paper TCG usually shuffle your hand into your deck and like you shuffle 1 card, but then you draw like 6 or 5 or sometimes even 7 if you discard your hand. This is the only way, I believe, in a 20 card deck that you can build a card like this. Otherwise, if you build it too similarly to the ones from the actual paper TCG, it's just too broken. So this is a good balance for this type of card, but I don't think this automatically becomes playable, first of all. And I definitely don't think it's playable at 2. And if it is going to be played, most likely at 1. And can be paired very well with things like communication. Because like, let's say like you're playing a Rampardos deck and you're missing Rampardos. You can try to get it with a communication. And even if you don't get it, you still have the same amount of cards in your hand. So now you can play Iona and use it a second chance. But then you've also thinned the amount of cards that you would have in your deck because you got rid of the communications. And then you have a bigger chance of getting into that card. But the next card is actually one of my favorite. Red. Finally, we got red. We got blue, and I was always wondering, like, hey, were we going to get red soon? And we finally did. And it says, during this turn, attacks used by your Pokemon do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX. This is really cool. So traditionally, fighting decks, before the inclusion of the Lucario, the baby Lucario that does 20 more damage, Giovanni was played in every single fighting deck, or every single aggro deck, for instance, most often, right? Specifically fighting decks. Then we kind of took them out, maybe left 1 in certain decks, but once Lucario came in, we kind of disappeared. I think this probably goes back in, at least at 1, especially since our fighting decks and our aggro fighting decks are playing things like Sudowoodo now. So Sudowoodo already does 50 damage for 1 energy to a Pokemon EX. With this, it would do 70. With Lucario, it would do 90. With 2 Lucario, it would do 110. And then if you throw a Rocky Helmet on it, like, you're basically just ran through an entire Pokemon EX for 1 energy, right? So I do see this being put into fighting decks now. And this also might create a resurgence of the Tauros that we got from, I believe it was Mythical Island, that does 120 damage to Pokemon EX, because now with this is doing 140. So put this in a Dialga deck or a Manaphy deck with Tauros, and Tauros might just start running through people, right? 140 damage is a lot for a single prize Pokemon. So that will be very, very interesting, okay? But also, this will probably just be put in every deck. I mean, let's be honest. It doesn't say it has to be a non-EX Pokemon that attacks. It's just any Pokemon that attacks into a Pokemon EX. So you put this on, I don't know, Charizard. It's doing 100 and 220 damage. You put it on the new Pikachu. It does 170. You do Rampardos. It does 130. This, it does 150 even without Lucario. With Lucario, it does 170. With 2 Lucarios, it does 190. Again, add a Rocky Helmet in there maybe. Holy smokes. You're basically one-shotting anything you want with Rampardos. It's kind of crazy. Put this on, I don't know, anything. I don't know. Arceus. Arceus is super strong right now. Arceus already does 130. You do this as 150. Like, it's very, very strong. So I actually think this will be at least a one of in almost every single deck, if I'm being completely honest. And then Palkia EX, 150 damage, right? Does 170. That's taking out a Dialga with a freaking cape. Like, very, very strong. Okay, let's get into Tickerton. Actually, I saw this card before. I think it's actually going to be pretty good. So it's a stage 2, unfortunately, but 170 HP, pretty decent. Lower end of a stage 2. Usually you want to see like that 180. However, 170 usually is a very good break point to take a shot. With red, is that still going to be the case? I don't know. But for 3 energy, it's a metal Pokemon. 2 energy requirement is metal and 1 is colorless. Obviously going to be played in a Dialga deck. Terrific Thumpin' does 80 damage plus flip a coin if heads. This attack does 80 more damage. So it's already 80 base with a 50% chance to do 160. Very good. I think that is very good. Stage 2 is a little bit risky, but I do think this is very good, and I do think it will see play, and I think someone will come out with a deck, especially with Adamant now. I think we're going to have like a pure steel deck that is actually pretty decent, and I think this could be it, but I could be wrong because I'm always very suspect of decks that play Stage 2 Pokemon, especially right now. Decks with a lot of Pokemon just don't do extremely, extremely well. The next one is Giratina EX, 150 HP for a basic Pokemon. Very good. Its ability, Broken Space Bellow. Once during your turn, you may take a psychic energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. If you use this ability, your turn ends. So that's pretty good still, because you're only going to use this ability at the end of your turn anyways, and you're most likely doing it when you're not trying to attack. So if you're not trying to attack and it's not relevant to attack, it doesn't matter if your turn ends. So you do the ability 3 times, and then on the 4th turn you manually attach, and then you bring it in, and it does its chaotic impact, 130 for 4 damage. But you're ramping into it fairly quickly, so 130 for a basic that you can ramp up pretty quickly. This Pokemon does 20 damage to itself, unfortunately. And I don't think Darkrai hasn't completely disappeared, right? Weavile Darkrai hasn't completely disappeared. It just won a very big tournament recently. So Dark is still very strong, which makes Psychic still very weak. And it is weak to darkness, unfortunately, Dark-type Pokemon. So, very cool. The issue, or the thing that you would obviously like to do, is ramp onto it and then Dawn, but you can't do it in the same turn, so it's always a 2-turn combo instead of a 1-turn combo, unfortunately. So we have 3 Giratina cards now, and none of them are amazing, but it is what it is. Well, let's get into this. So, Paldean Claude Sire. Okay. EX. A stage 1, 160 HP, very good. Very, very good. 3 energy retreat. That's fine. It is what it is. Most 160 HP Pokemon have a very high retreat cost when it's a stage 1. Venoshock. 60 plus if your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned. This attack does 60 more damage. So this basically just replaced the Scolipede, right? The Scolipede decks. The old ones that everyone thought was very good, and then they're found out they're not. They're not very good. I did a whole video about how it's like the most overrated meta deck a long time ago, and how people continued to try and play it because it did very well in like the first 3 days of its release in tournaments, and then completely fell off the map. But now that we have an EX Pokemon with 160, that's a stage 1 instead of a stage 2, you play this alongside Weezin, and all of a sudden, that kind of deck becomes a lot better, right? You're doing, you're poisoning and then Kogaing, using a Koga on your Weezin in the same turn, bringing this guy out with 2 energy on it already, and you're doing 130 damage on your first turn. Or not your first turn, but the first turn this card attacks. Very cool, very strong. I love this. I think those types of decks have disappeared, and they disappeared a long time ago, and I'm kind of glad that we can see them kind of come back in a way. The next one, so Beedrill, very cool. All right. Beedrill EX, 170 HP, very cool. Stage 2. 2 energy, grass type requirement. Crushing Spear does 80 damage. And then it says discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So this is very good, okay? A lot of energy, discard energy, is usually always, in most cases, a flip a coin effect. I believe Mawile has one. I believe Pharaoh has one. Baby Gyarados has one, but they all have to flip coins to discard an energy. This is finally a card that we're getting, and I'm thankful for it, because I've been trying to build for a very long time an energy control deck. I did a hand control deck. It was very cool. It was very strong, very playable, got a ton of wins, made people rage quit like crazy. And then I tried to do an energy manipulation deck or energy control deck with cards like Mawile, Pharaoh, and the new Porygon Z. But it didn't work because, first of all, and this card might not work either. But let me just say why it didn't work. 1, the randomness of the coin flip. That's number 1. And then 2, which is why this card might still not work, is there's so much ramping in the game that no matter how many times you discard an energy from your opponent's Pokemon, it doesn't really matter. Like, there's too much ramping. Magneton ramps, Leafeon ramps, what else ramps? Gardevoir, the new Giratina, Manaphy, Dialga. Like, I'm sure I can go on, right? Like, there's so much ramping in the game right now for energy. Moltres, the new Charizard. Like, there's just a lot of energy ramping going on. And so this might not be, still not be good, the energy control. But at the end of the day, we finally got something that doesn't have to flip a damn coin to remove an energy from your opponent's Pokemon. And at least it's the opponent's active Pokemon too, so that's pretty cool. But we'll see how this goes. I don't know if you can obviously play it with Porygon Z, unfortunately, because again, they're both stage 2s, right? So how do you do that? But I'm definitely going to try it. Like, I've been waiting for a card to kind of push it into the next step for energy control. And then Babarrel, 160 HP on a stage 1, still very good, just like Executor EX, just like the Clods, the dark Pokemon we just looked at, and just like the Probopass, right? So 160 HP is very good on a stage 1. And this is also a colorless, so you can ramp it already right away with things like Manaphy and Dialga. Very cool. For 4 energy requirement, all colorless, Carefree, press 100 damage, heal 30 from this Pokemon. Pretty decent. But I'm not so sure if it's worth it. Is this better than Venusaur? Is this better than Lapras? Lapras is a basic water that heals 30 from itself, but it has 140 HP. This heals for 30 as well, but is 160. It does more damage, but more energy requirement. The same energy requirement as Venusaur, but it's a stage 2. Venusaur can heal with Erica. Lapras can heal with Irida. This can also heal with Irida, but not Erica. I don't know, but I will definitely be building this deck and trying to come out with a video maybe deciding what is the better way to build a deck like that, like a full-on healing wall tanky Pokemon that sits there and then just hits every turn for, I guess in this case, 100 and heals 30, and then a bunch of other ways to keep it on the board with capes, potions, whatever it may be, a shaman, I don't know. I just built recently a Lapras EX deck, which was basically a 16 trainer deck. It was just 2 Lapras, 2 Shaman. Super duper good. It was very hard for my opponent to knock me out. Because this is 160, it might take even longer and not too hard to get into. So this is pretty cool. But anyways, that is it for the breakdown. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I know I've been gone for a while, so thank you all for those who came back to check out my channel once more with my return video, and I think this was the perfect video to make with the release and announcement of this new set. As more cards are revealed, I will obviously do more videos and updates on those if we get them, and possibly even do a deck building video where we discuss certain decks that could be built with these cards. But anyways, thank you all so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. Leave a comment in the comment section below. But please join my Discord and my Twitter. And as always, keep cooking.